Okay, my friends, short and sweet. This is POV channel, and he's out here looking at these huge, gigantic blocks and wondering what are they. And here's what he's looking at.
Section in particular made the internet go a little crazy.
Now look at this. You see these blocks? There's just block after block after block. And I know what this is. As crazy as it sounds, this is a ponerosis tendon. I know it sounds insane, but that's exactly what it is. The entire world and the entire universe, as far as I'm concerned, is nothing but biology. And this is biology. They didn't just happen to form there by accident. I'll show you what this is in another picture from some more crazy biology. But this here, he's looking through this whole area here, and this eroded like overnight as far as I can tell. And somebody mentioned the other day that the, well, look at this thing. Look at how big this is. And this stuff here, that's the Slurpee that's around these blocks of tendon. They're tendinous blocks. I know it's crazy. Okay, I have been looking at the Grand Canyon area, and I know this it's nothing but biology. As you can see, this is not just accidental shapes. These are a ponerosis tendon, and this area is just so vast and enormous, and there's so much devastation there. I couldn't put it together. I just couldn't figure out how so much devastation could happen in this one area. And then Harsh Reality, one of my subscribers, said he thought this area was hit by Venus, and I have to tend to agree. After looking at it with that perspective, I do agree. That's what did this devastation virtually overnight. This is the kind of stuff that I'm looking at in the Grand Canyon. I just couldn't put it together. But once this Harsh Reality said maybe it got hit by Venus, and I agree.
Incredible rock formations on the top of a remote cliff overlooking Monument Valley. After many more hours of exploring this place on Google Earth, I realized I had barely scratched the surface on my initial visit. There was so much more to find out here.
Look at these blocks. Look at the size of them. Look how patterned they are. And I understand
the largest of which was this towering bridge of stone, extending from the northern side of the cliff. I wasn't even sure if it was possible to get across it. And the shapes on the end looked different, but just as impressive.
Those balls were...
So I made the long...
Let me back up to those balls. All right, what happens in a ponerosis tendon, it like covers your whole back and your sides, and it girdles you with these straps, and they're in blocks, and then at the end there's balls. That's what he's got here, watch.
On the end looked different, but just as impressive.
All right, these are going to be where the balls anchor. And there they are. These are the balls anchoring at the very end of these tendons. Most of them are completely worn away. And how could these gigantic things get worn away? The only possibility I see now is what Harsh Reality said. The only thing I could think of is it must have been the impact zone. And I looked at it again a little deeper, and I think I can conclude that yes, this was the impact zone. It was torn to shreds within hours when Venus hit Earth. And because the Earth is nothing but bodies of creatures and corpses, and that's exactly what it is. And when it ripped it away, it left the scars that show these balls, first of all, anchoring. The same ones that are like...
So I made the long journey back here. Better equipped this time.
You see all those balls?
Try to unlock.
That's a ponerosis tendon. All right, so he's up here looking at that ponerosis tendon. That hangs over the top of these fleshy layers and so forth that are inside your body. And down below all this stuff is the guts of this creature way down in the ground. Okay, what I want you to look at is these blocks right here that are falling down from this layer right here, these huge, huge blocks. That is the aponeurosis tendon. They're made in blocks, in flat sheets, and they anchor with balls. I think I've shown you that. Now, let me show you what it looks like in the human body, because below that is all kinds of layers after layer after layer after layer of muscle, tissue, membranes, connective tissue, layer after layer after layer, until you get down into the deep, deep guts. Well, what does it look like in the actual human body? There it is right there. That white stuff is the aponeurosis tendon. You see how it's everywhere? That gives you a lot of strength and like a girdle for your whole body. And it's covered in these layers. Let's get right up close and I'll show you those layers, how tight they are. You see those little flaps and straps? And then where they bump into the flesh is where they attach now, and that's erodible. This stuff is very erodible, the fleshy stuff. But the tendon, not so much. The tendon just will not erode. It's almost inert. It's just a really tough, rubbery, heavy-duty rubber substance. And where it attaches, it erodes. And he's in an area where it's had eroded and it's falling off the edge. So let's take it from the top. We got a aponeurosis tendon, tough, wrapping you like crazy. Outside of that would have been the skin. And that's just gone. That erodes very easily. Now, underneath are all the different layers of tissue, and there's layer after layer after layer after layer, hundreds and hundreds of layers. This is not sedimentation by any means, forming these kind of blocks and these kind of layers of bodily tissue. This clay-looking stuff, that is what your body's made out of. It's basically clay. It's red flesh, and that's dried out red flesh. All right, I'm going to have to give harsh reality a thumbs up, 100%. This should not have eroded like this. There is no reason for this to have eroded like this, other than some kind of a serious flooding impact, much more than just the Great Flood. This is stripped. And the connective tissue, there's areas of connective tissue which are much tougher than other areas in your body, even though they're right in the same area. There's little strips that are going to be tough, and this is one of them. Just didn't erode, and all of that stuff got stripped. And I think I see the impact site now. I mean, if you look at it, he shows a lot of shots. These are all tendons. Tendons are tough, and this particular section didn't erode out of here. But to erode tendon, you really got to have some serious, devastation to that spot. And a lot of these tendons are just completely ripped away. And I have no other explanation for it other than that it was the Venus impact, and this is the area that the impact occurred. Because I was looking at Vermilion Cliffs and all that stuff, and NASA National Park, and you can't make heads or tails of it. It's just body parts laying all over, guts, literal guts. The inside of the intestines, the inside of the stomach, just laying out. Why would that happen? Something had to rip all that stuff away from those guts, and this is what the impact did. I'm almost certain of it now. All right, this was what got me, was like Vermilion Cliffs. Look at this. That's intestinal area, or it could be the stomach, but look at the actual red blood gushing out of here. And these are all membrane type texture of some gigantic creature. I mean, absolutely stunning. And ripped open. This is what got me. This has not eroded away. This is ripped open. And the other one was, well, look at this. This guy's standing here on stomach. This is stomach tissue. The same stuff as this. This guy's standing on it. Look at him. This is what's in your guts. Now, why would that be opened up laying there? That was what had me very confused. And this is the inside of a stomach. You say, oh, no, Roger. Yes, it is. You want to see? Of course you do. Look over here. You see it? See the little balls in there? That's the stomach lining. There's so much to look at when you start to understand what's inside the human body. You want to see, well, since we're here, I might as well give you a real quick tour. Look at this. Look at these things that are inside the human body. People don't see these things. They have no clue. But they're all over there. They're everywhere. And you really got to look at the subtle tapestry of it and all of the little blood vessels and arteries and so forth. I mean, there is so much to this. And all of this is digestive areas. And they're all over the place. But people don't understand them. They don't realize what they're looking at. There's a lot of biology on this Earth because that's all this Earth is. Okay, there was absolutely enormous creatures, and then there was semi-enormous, and then there was average-sized creatures on the Earth. These little blocks right here are the same blocks that I showed you or will show you that the POV guy was out looking at, which was a layer of tissue. And then there was layer after layer after layer after layer of tissue in the body of the creature that he was standing on. And he was standing on these blocks. And that was the surface of a ponerosus tendon. These little things are straps that go over and have balls that lock in. And this, I think, was a test wall. They were trying to figure out how they should address the surfaces of this. This was scrubbed down. This was left with these little flaps right on the edge. These are the little stalks. You see that? If you can see that right inside here, you see it? There was a stalk that came out of there. And this was too. But they were trying, all I can think of is they were trying to see how, should they take the stuff all the way back? Should they leave it this way? Should they round it off like that? Should they flatten it out? That's all I can take from this. As incredible as it sounds, this is the surface of the creature's body. And all of that has eroded away. And I'm sure that was the impact of Venus.
Angle. So I actually
Look at
have
this.
my angle measure with me in my backpack. So I think
this is stunning layers of tissue. I mean, the creature, I can't even imagine how big it was. But you could see the guy walking around on the little... All right, this is the same blocks we were just seeing down in Peru where they had that test wall. And these come out and they can shift around like this and stretch and move and so forth. That's the nature of this blockiness. In between every one of these blocks is a layer of what they call leucine-rich proteins. It's a slippery stuff in between the layers of these blocks so that they can move and twist and do all these things which your body has to do, but they could maintain extreme strength. This is tough stuff. And that glue is glued very, very tightly. You know, I mean, it's slurpy, but it's got a really solid attachment. Let's just put it that way. It'll move, it'll twist, it'll slide, but it won't pull apart until this happens. All right, tendon is tendon. It comes in these little blocks. This is the rope style tendon. You see the different colors? The different colors means a different configuration of collagen fibers, the molecular structure of it. Some of it's very strong, gives a lot of tensile strength. Some of it's a little twistier. And in different places in your body, in the rope style ones, they go to bones and to another muscle and then to a bone. But in the aponeurosis style, which we're looking at here, is a different situation. This lays flat on your body. And that's what he was looking at, the flat laid stuff, which all the black, and then there's a little piece comes out and grabs a hold, and then that aponeurosis tendon can slide back and forth with that thing locked in. And I showed you those balls too, or I will. All right, so don't forget, that's the aponeurosis tendon. It's all breaking apart now. And all of those layers of tissue are the layers of tissue that are in your body. There's no mystery here. It's just that it's so spectacular that people just hide from it. You see, this was always had me confused. This is just a pile of guts. This is just a big gigantic pile of guts. Everywhere, just everywhere. And I'm thinking to myself, how so like somebody just ripped it apart. Well, like I said, it makes sense that this was an impact here of Venus here and trailed off and dragged some of the stuff with it, or came in from this area and eventually just impacted tight into there and bounced off. I don't know, but I got a feeling harsh reality is right. This was where it was hit, and it just tore the guts right out of this, whatever was there. Some guy, absolutely gigantic. This is the organ system, basically, of whatever this creature was, and they're big. I mean, you got Quetzalcoatl here. He's a good-sized creature. There's his head, runs all the way up the East Coast. All right? If that thing hit here and his guts, you'd have maybe the same sort of thing. Who knows? All right, you got Scorpzilla, you got Typhon, and the fish over here. They're pretty big. That could have been an issue there. All these things are known about now, and they're being avoided because they're just too spectacular for the average human mind. Now just think if a thing hit right there, you'd just splash guts everywhere. The fish would be just everywhere. The same thing with Typhon. If it got hit here, and here's this dragon scaled head. This red flared eye, exactly identical to the description of this encounter written in Apollodorus 1.6.3. Typhon attacked the gods who turned themselves into animals to try to avoid, and he spit fire and flaming stuff at the fish, and here they are. And Zeus came down and cut his throat with his great and mighty sword, and that is a gash across Typhon's throat. And Typhon runs the entire distance across North Africa, 1,300 miles, something like that. Now, Venus caused this destruction over here, I believe, in the Grand Canyon. That's what I'm taking now. I'm taking this as quite likely because of this bash and this trail of debris here, whatever that is. I got to do a little more digging in here, but it was either something coming this way and hit it, or something coming this way and hit it. But to get down inside those guts, that's the only way I can think of. And it's the exact same thing happened on Mars, and it got down and deep into the guts on Mars too. This is how big these creatures were. These are muscle sarcomeres. These are tiny and microscopic in us. This guy's standing here on some over there in Ireland. The whole Earth is covered with them. This is tendon. tendon in us is microscopic. This is the tendon coming out of here, the little fibrils. Absolutely enormous. This is a ponderosa tendon. And you can see there's this little slurpee in here, you see? See this in between here? That's normally what's going to be in between, so they can sort of twist and slide and all that. That's the ponderosa. I mean, this is tendon. I'm sorry. Back up. This is muscle. Muscle goes like this. It contracts like that and it expands like this. The red stuff just runs out of it, the dark stuff, and you end up with these connective tissue slats, just like you have here on Mars. Mars was hit by Venus, tore the guts right out of Mars too, and I mean deep. I'll show you what happened to Mars. They're talking this continually over millions of years, these layers. No, that was a creature that was destroyed when Venus hit Mars. And here's where it hit on Mars. Look at this. That's wider than the United States. Venus was destroyed. I mean, Mars was destroyed by Venus. We were right on the margin of destruction. We're on the eve of destruction. And this is Venus. This is a discharge, electric discharge into Venus. It literally stole Mars' magnetic field and its atmosphere. Mars has virtually no atmosphere and it has no magnetic field. And it did at one time have both of those, and it had plenty of life all over it, and big life. All right, this is just one area here, and this had to be torn the guts right out of this thing, ripped to shreds, which you can see it did. And here's one of the deep gouges, part of that. That's an artery and a vein right here, servicing the muscle tissue. This is not something that's not understood. It's just shied away from. Everybody's scared to talk about it because it's too much for the average human mind to accept. It is. It's too much to accept. I have this here in my shop. This is nothing but muscle attached to tendon. All right, and there's a gluey strip between the muscle and the tendon, and that's that gluey strip right here. Then you go right there into these blocks of tendon. You see them? And guess where they are too? Smaller, I mean much bigger than this, but they are right here at Baalbek, right there. Look at this guy's praying against this tendon. And this is where little bits of blood were fed that tendon. The Earth and everywhere. And here's on Mars again. This is torn to shreds. These are layers of tissue, and this is probably the fluid-filled highway, which is this layer right here. All right. So above it was all kinds of other layers. And below it, there's all kinds of other layers, and that is the fluid-filled highway, more than likely. And it's on Mars. So anyway. Okay, to sum it up, I would say virtually all that is biology. Well, it is biology. There is no hiding from it. And I now do believe this was the impact site, coming this way or coming this way. I am not sure. But to get deep inside the guts, and have them as fresh as they are, I mean, they just look like somebody just cut it open last week. I mean, this is blood running out of all that. That is just bloody tissue just below the membrane. And in your stomach and in your guts and your intestines, small intestine, large intestine, colon, all that stuff. This is the type of tissue you have, and there's a lot of movement back and forth through these membranes into the blood, into the lymph. And this is just torn. Somebody just ripped this body apart, and that's what's inside of bodies. All right, here's the deal. Here's Mars right here. This is wider than the United States. This is an impact and a scrub right across. Mars is dead. It has no more atmosphere, no more gas surrounding it, and no more magnetic field. The gas is what sets up the magnetic field. It's a capacitive reactance. As the gases spin, they charge and discharge, charge and discharge. That is the magnetic field. You strip the gases, you have no magnetic field, and that's the case here. It did have a magnetic field. All the scientists agree with that, and now it's gone. For what reason? They cannot explain. I just did. And here is the reason and the perpetrator of this destruction. All right, now, here's the deal. This is Venus. And this, my friends, there is nobody on planet Earth that knows about electricity and arc welding that could say that is not an arc. All right, that is not an arc welding flash. So, what's the story? Did it hit here and push this way? I say no. I say it hit here, boom, and bounced off and trailed those vapors down towards Earth and towards Mars. Towards Earth, it tore up the Grand Canyon pretty serious. It looks, I agree with that. And I need to look for some evidence of magnetic scarring like this, because it did almost take our entire atmosphere as well. They said that they couldn't start fires because there was almost no oxygen left in the atmosphere after this huge, enormous, of course it burned, volcanism, fire, rain from the skies, and just a terrible cataclysm. And the end result was a huge, terrible flood and boiling waters, and virtually almost everything died. And the little pockets came back, and they had almost no oxygen. They couldn't start fires. And they called it the giant reoxygenation or some huge oxygenation event, whatever. And that was right after this impact where it sucked our gases off. And we wouldn't have had a magnetic field either. We'd have almost no magnetic field because the gases, as it spins, they absorb electrons and then they discharge to the Earth. And now the Earth has taken on too much energy because we're swelling our atmosphere like this. So it's, instead of taking 100 amps out there, we're getting 200 amps. And it's got to come somewhere, and it's going to go into the Earth. That's what global warming is all about. They won't go out back into space. They're going to come down here one way or the other, and they end up going into Earth and warming up the Earth, and the Earth is belching biology into space and swelling up some more. So we see this now, and of course you've seen all the stuff on Mars. Mars, this is muscle, just like here on Earth. Gigantic chunks of muscle. There's not a drop of water rain down there. This is Mars, there's no question about it. And this is muscle, there's no question about that. And the stuff on Mars is muscle, there is no question about that. And it didn't take millions of years to do that. There is no question about that. This event happened 3,700 years ago, according to Velikovsky, who did more research on this than any living human being ever did. All right, this is on Venus, the only pictures ever taken. And these are the balls too. They're not just here, they're not just there, they're everywhere, because biology is everywhere. This is the only picture ever taken on Venus. All right, now, and these are the Mars blueberries. There's the same things as the Moki marbles. They're identical, no difference whatsoever. This is the basement layer of skin. The rest is just basically dusted off and left these Moki marble Mars blueberries, which are basically the same as these, the same as these, the same as the Moki marbles. And we also have the Mars crab, which is an artery and a vein right above it. The vein has no tentacles. The artery has all the little bits going in to service the muscle sarcomeres, more sarcomeres. Again, not a drop of water has fallen here. This is Mars, no question about it. And this is connective tissue, no question about it. These are sarcomeres, no question about it. That's an artery, no question about it. That's blood vessels, no question about it. That is a vein. No question about that either. So, now that we have no questions, let's move on. Okay, this should be very interesting, trying to explain this. Now, there's some talk about California, off the coast of California, so I decided I would go up and look, and I could see this, it looked like an artery or something coming out of California or going into California. So I keep digging and digging, and I find this. Now, what is this? Well, you can see there's an obvious layer here, this right here. I don't think any human being did this. This is biological, and these are like the fluid-filled highway, basically, that type of thing, and the interstitium balls and the skin and so forth, or whatever. You see this? It runs right up here. This whole thing, I don't think anybody came in here and carved all this out. They did do work in here, yes, but not this. I very much doubt that any of this was done by human intervention, or it might have been worked on a little bit, but I think this was a natural feature. Now, you can see over here, they did, that certainly looks like it's geoengineered to me. But I don't think this one, and I don't think this over here. And I think I understand what these are. And it's kind of stunning. And again, I don't think this was done by human intervention. And you see this kind of change in colors and so forth. That is pretty much associated to a complete change in chemistry. And why would it secrete something here? This is biology, my friends. It's absolutely biology now. And then this whole system drains into this area here, right off the coast of California. I believe it's draining into this. Alright. It's coming down here and feeding this ribbon of whatever it is. And then it almost looks like it must be being absorbed or something. It comes out into this pile. And then it goes out here into all of this stuff. It looks to me, I don't know if you see it differently, but I see it that way. So where I just showed you up in here, that crazy looking stuff, and then whatever this is, my belief is it's discharging. And whatever happens out here, I don't know. But that thing there, if you follow it down around, it comes all the way out to here. And it has a very, very intricate shape to it. It comes out and it almost looks like it's discharging into like a bladder or something. And then it runs out here. Whatever that is. But you can see it's even got like the lines of tissue. You see? Look at that. You see that? That's that's some kind of tissue. Same thing here, same thing over here, same thing over here. What's going on here? I do not know. What is this? There's things you can't explain. I can't explain some of this stuff. What the hell is that? But look at all these little lines. That to me is tissue. That's layers of tissue. And this is biology, my friends. This is biology. Now look at this. I could be wrong. Somebody could have done this, but I don't think so. Look at all these little, like, feathery look to it. It doesn't look like anybody's been really driving around in here much. Maybe a little bit here and there, but not to have sculpted something like this. Now, what are we seeing over here? Don't forget, that's an abrupt transition. In my mind, there's no question about that. And they just decided not to bother going in here because it's a mess. And out here, it laid into something flat. I mean, look at this. Just stop and think and look. Look at that. Now I looked in here and I could see all kinds of biology. See that? All those little bumpy things. See? Different colors in the transition zone. Different layers and these bumps. See them all over the place. This is very, very, but it's biology. Of that, there is zero question. And they come out, you see how they all bump together here? It's the same sort of stuff. Layer after layer after layer. It's some kind of, I don't know what it is, skin or stomach tissue or something. But this whole area is covered with that. You see it all the way up here? Whatever it was, I don't know. But I can tell you one thing, it's a different sort of biology here, and it is biology, than it was back there. Now, are they farming this? I don't know. I think that is a line from Google Earth, not from actual color. But you see the layering into this? You see all the layering? The color similarities? We're looking at a major amount of biology here. And this, I know this is right here. And this was the area we were looking at that had all that nasty looking biology. Well, not nasty looking, but it's certainly not your average, you know, rivers. Something in here is from biology, which was from the pattern of this creature's blood vessels, as far as I'm concerned. And on both sides, it's got the same sort of stuff going on. And then it dumps out here into the ocean. Right off the edge of California. So anyway, there's a whole lot to look at and to think about now from what we have been taught, especially when we're talking about Quetzalcoatl, which is right there. His headdress is right here. This is where Little Rock is, right up here. This is where Nightmare, Tornado Alley, because of his feathers. I'm not kidding you. And there's his head. And again, different chemistry, different growth patterns, different colors. And he goes all the way up the East Coast, all the way up into the Green Mountains, which are feathers. Because feathers make things grow exceptionally green. And this is called the Green Feathered Mountains. I mean, I think they're called the Green Mountains now, but it'll be Green Feathered Mountains very shortly. And of course, we all know about Typhon attacking the fish, which was written about in Apollodorus 1.6.3. Typhon, that big dragon right here, runs all across North Africa, all the way over to here. And here he is with his dragon-scaled face and throat, all the way running down. All of that is his throat. It just keeps going until it got slashed right there by Zeus with his great and mighty sword. And that's only right here on his neck. This is only halfway down his neck. His body is here. He had the thighs of a human, and then coils of vipers. And the rest of them was dragon. And there's his dragon tail coming way out here. And these are scales. He got slashed over here too. Those are dragon scales. Blood running out from Zigash. You know, he took a bunch of hits, but the one that got him was the one on the throat. And he's in the ancient maps. It shows a dragon going all the way across from 1375, the map, all the way across, and his throat's cut. Now he's attacking this fish, and he got him. He got him all the way down to here. He got him all the way down to there from there.